What's going on, everyone? My name is Derrick. Welcome to my channel, Euro Superbike Life, or ESBKLife for short. Today we are working on my race, BMW S1000RR. I'm going to distinguish the two bikes because you guys know that I recently picked up an F4 1000 track bike, and that's going to be the fun track bike. This guy is going to be my race weapon. So we're working on the race bike today as opposed to the track bike. Anyway, if you remember my last video on the S1000, I told you that we were getting some Alpha Racing goodies. We're going to do the ABS Delete, as well as an Alpha Racing Race ECU, and some other goodies. Well, the ECU's not in yet, but all the other stuff is. So we're going to start working on that right after this. Welcome back, guys. So here are the parts that we are going to be installing today, all from Alpha Racing. So the first is the Alpha Racing ABS Delete module. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. It's not. There's the part number. So all this little puppy does is it plugs directly into your harness. You unplug your ABS wiring harness area. This plugs directly into it. And pretty much that's the end of it, but we're going to go a little bit further and we're going to take out the ABS pump and everything like that. And that's where these guys come in. So on your stock S1000RR, it has ABS, obviously it has an ABS pump under the seat. So the lines run from the master cylinder to the pump, and then from the pump back to your calipers and so forth. So we're going to get rid of all of that. So we need direct lines on a more traditional bike that go directly from the front brake master cylinder to the front calipers, and from the rear brake master cylinder to the rear caliper. So we have right there. There you go. There we go. This is the part number for the front brake kit, and the part numbers for the rear brake kit. Again, this is, I don't know if it's for all years, but it's certainly for my 2011 S1000. So let's get into it, shall we? Let's start by removing the body parts. Now, I already removed or loosened up some of this top stuff because I had to send the ECU again out to Alpha Racing. So it should be here relatively soon, hopefully. Set all of those aside. Now we'll want to remove our tank, get it out of the way. I'm going to get a nice soft pad. Put that up there. And set my tank on it. So with the tank removed, here's our ABS pump unit, and here is the harness. So we're just going to disconnect the harness, plug in our Alpha Racing ABS Delete module into it, and then we can start disconnecting this. While we're in here, we're also going to remove our Dynojet unit. So if anyone needs a Dynojet PC5 for their bike, hit me up. I'll set you up with a great price because I no longer need it, but we're going to remove all the harness associated with it. So let's get to that. We'll start first by disconnecting the battery. Always want to disconnect the battery when you're working on anything electrical, whether it be in your car, truck, or motorcycle. Actually, when you're working on anything at all, pretty much. Because there's a high risk of you grounding something out and shorting and blowing out a fuse, and no one wants to do that. It's kind of a pain in the behind. Take out our Scorpion lithium ion, and I just dropped, oh, there it is. Looks like that was spliced in. We'll have to remove that. And then there's another one over here. Looks like it was spliced in there as well. Okay, so now we just need to remove the injector connectors one at a time. All right. We just need to pull this wiring harness right from around this fuel hose. Okay, so all that remains are these two lines that go to here. Seeing they were spliced in, I'm fairly confident that I could just go ahead and clip these off right here with no worries. Let's hope, because that's what we're gonna do. We'll leave a little bit of line just in case I gotta connect it back at some point. But there you go. Our PC5 is disconnected. Again, I no longer need this. So if you guys, anyone is looking for a PC5 for the S1000RR, hit me up. Again, if you're a subscriber, I'll make you an awesome deal on this thing. Otherwise, expect to find it on Facebook and eBay relatively soon. Okay, so now that the PC5 is removed, we can start working on removing our ABS pump. First going to remove the rest of the fairings and then drain our front brake reservoir. And then we'll be ready to start installing stuff and getting this thing out of here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have my trusty Harbor Freight air bleeder here. It uses compressed air from a monstrous 50-gallon air compressor I have over there. I'm just going to drop this line into the top, suck it out, and then I'm going to connect this to one of the calipers on the bottom, suck the rest out, and then we can start to remove the rest of the pump. So we'll remove the cap here. Remember, this stuff is very corrosive, so don't spill it on anything. We'll drop this in here, give it a squeeze, suck it all out. Okay. So now what I'll do is I'll put on this nipple attachment and I will suck the rest of the brake fluid out through the caliper. All right. So the front brake system should all be evacuated now of brake fluid, or at least most of it. So now we can start removing lines and such. All right, so before we get started, I want to show you guys this. So here is our distribution block with lines running to both calipers. So we got a line here that runs down and over to this caliper here. And then from our distribution block, we got a line that runs over here down to the caliper over here on that side. Notice that there's no direct line like on a conventional sport bike that runs directly from your calipers up to the master cylinder. So we got a line here. Again, this is a distribution block, and there's a line right here underneath that runs behind the radiator through here, and comes back all the way to our ABS unit. Then there's a line from the ABS unit that runs all the way up here to our brake master cylinder. Here's that line here. We're going to eliminate all that, and it's the same thing for the rear. So there's a line that runs from the ABS unit down to our rear caliper, and then there's a line that runs from your, here it is, our rear brake master cylinder up to the ABS unit. So again, we're going to eliminate all of this, eliminate these two lines, connect a line directly from our rear caliper to our rear master cylinder, and lines from our front brake master cylinder directly to our calipers, and eliminate that whole unit. And we'll put this thing on a scale afterwards to see how much it weighs. So let me put this back on the tripod and start removing stuff. Okay, so off camera I did a little bit of investigating. I want to make sure that I followed the lines properly. And you can see I've gone ahead and disconnected the distribution block up here, and I put the screw back in place. And this is always a good practice. I don't do it anywhere near enough, but if you put the screw back in place after you take it out, if you can, it's not always ideal, but put it back in place. This prevents two things: one, from losing the screw, and two, from mixing them up from something else, and you end up with parts laying all over that you were supposed to reinstall but you didn't. But I followed this line back all the way back to the ABS pump, and it goes to this line here, or this connection here, and this runs all the way here. And there was a couple of zip ties and clamps along the way, particularly, you probably can't see in there, let me see if I can make this lighter. Nope, but down in here there were a couple of zip ties in there that were a pain in the butt to get to, and then there was a bracket over here. Let me get the bracket. Here, this bracket here that connects. Again, I got the screw in place, but the bracket goes here, and the line was zip tied to these points as well. So there are a couple of tricky areas to get, but I want to make sure that they were all free. So now the line is entirely free. So now I can disconnect it from the calipers and disconnect it from here and start to see if I could pull this line out without destroying it. All right, so let's see if we can do that. This is a T40. Okay. Drop the screw right back in here. And now I'm going to see if I can pull this out without destroying it. It ought to be fun. Okay. I pulled it through the side over there, and now I should be able to work this out here. So we've pulled it out the front. It's not exactly the same shape, but that's okay. And now we can, I think that's about a 14 mil. We can remove the lines from the side. Nope, that was way off, about 12 mil. There we go. Wipe up any drips, any spills. Screw that down some more. Don't want it to run. And there we go. There is one of the lines. So now we're going to move to the rear, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to follow the line from the caliper all the way up to here. There's a distribution block right here I can already see. So I'm going to grab my wire cutters and start removing zip ties. We'll free up the sensor from the brake line. Okay, we got our reservoir free. And actually, I don't have to suck it out, I could just dump it. We'll just dump this right in there. another zip tie right here. Okay, that one is up and out. We'll grab our T40. Man, I hate when that happens. Okay, one of the lines are out. Here we go, there's that screw. Okay, just removing the distribution block here. Okay. Get that out of the way along with the bracket. Frees up this line, so now we just need to remove it from the rear caliper. So we'll grab our T40 and our towel. Okay, the rear line out. Now we just need to remove, after I wipe up all this brake fluid. And the last thing we wanted to do is to sit on painted surfaces. We'll, later after we get everything installed, we'll come back in here with some brake clean and shoot it all. So now we just have the one line left running from our distribution block up to our front brake master cylinder. We just need to disconnect it. So again, I'm gonna make sure all the zip ties are disconnected as best I can anyway. Disconnect this line. And now we can start yanking this out. And I may actually have to loosen up the air box to get this one, or I just may cut the damn thing out. Yeah, I am making an executive decision. I'm going to cut this one. I'm not going to fight with this guy. Okay, so we got that front brake master cylinder line out. This is the only one we got out in two parts. I didn't want to have to remove the air box. Just don't feel like going through a lot of that, but we did cut this one out. I don't ever plan on using this again, so not that big a deal. Now we can focus on getting out the pump. So let's see what we have here. So it looks like we got two, maybe 10mm screws on the bottom. And guys, you really shouldn't be the difference between you and the mechanics or dealership that you're paying tons of money to is they have probably a shop manual. I would hope that they have a shop manual. And the specialty tools. That is really the difference. I mean, they work on these things all the time, so they obviously probably have more know-how and whatnot. But don't be afraid to work on your bike. If you make a mistake, it's just a part. It can be replaced or repaired. And the best way to learn is to do it, and then if you make a mistake, you know what to do or what not to do next time. So don't be afraid to work on your bikes and your cars, your trucks, what have you. There's a level of satisfaction that comes along with working on your stuff and knowing that you did it and you didn't have to pay someone else to do something and it's right. The downside is that if you screw up, you got no one to blame but yourself. Some type of plug holding it in place on the bottom. There we go. It's like a rubber grommet on the bottom here. There we go. And we're out. And there's that rubber grommet on the bottom. It's being a little bit pain in the butt, but it's out. So now, trying to figure out how to remove this. Typical BMW fashion, this probably pulls. Oh, look at that. And then this slides up and off. There we go. All right, pump is out. So now we have our Alpha Racing unit here. All we need to do is plug this in. And it only goes in one way. So it won't go in that way. Flip it around. Plug it in. Slide that back in place. It comes with this hook and loop. We can't call it Velcro because that's a manufacturer. So it comes with some hook and loop tape. So once we get the battery in here and so forth, we'll figure out where we want to put this. Probably like something like right there or something. I don't know. But that's really all that's to it. The ABS has now been deleted. Now we can reinstall or we can install our new Alpha Racing lines. All right, guys, so we're going to start with installing the rear caliper brake line, the stainless steel line from Alpha Racing. Before we get started, a point of knowledge. When you go to order your line from Alpha Racing, they make a number of them. So you want to make sure that you order the correct one for your bike. They have a number of lines in different lengths. They have lines that only fit their rear sets. They have lines that fit stock rear sets. So again, take your time, make sure that you order the correct one. This one is a 630 millimeter length line that connects to stock rear sets, or I should say the non-Alpha Racing rear sets, because I have Giamottos on here. Again, they come in all different lengths and different configurations. So if you're not sure, give them a call. I know George, excuse me, I know George is the contact point here in the States. Outside of the States, I'm not sure who you'll get, but I'm sure they'll be helpful. So again, make sure you order the right stuff or call them and they'll help you out and they'll help you get the right ones ordered. The line also comes with new crush washers, so we'll want to make sure that we use those. And we're going to start by installing it here on the end. Now, bleeding a rear caliper can be a challenge. You really don't use it a whole lot on the track unless you're like the Marc Marquez or those MotoGP guys that really like to back things in and whatnot. As I was saying, bleeding can be a challenge because you have to get your caliper higher than your master cylinder. And that's not always doable, at least not on the bike. So what I like to do, and I'll probably do this a little bit later, not now, but basically you remove the rear caliper with the line and everything connected, and you sort of dangle it from a high point. That way, because when you're taking air out of the system, air rises and it goes to the highest point, so you want your caliper to be the highest point. and you just sort of hang it up there, which isn't a big deal. The challenge there, though, is once you start bleeding the system, you need something roughly the diameter of your rotor, otherwise your pads will come together, and that's a pain in the butt. So you got to not only dangle it up here, but you got to put something in there that's roughly the width of your rotor. And then you can start the bleeding process. All right, so that's one side. Let me get my 2 crush washers over here. All right, that's our rear line installed. I'll go get into the bracket, get this back in place. We'll put it back up over here. And we'll zip tie this down so it's not flopping all over the place. And that's the rear. And again, we'll worry about bleeding it later. Let's go to the front. All right, guys, so we're up here on the front. Same thing. Make sure you get the correct line. They come in different lengths and configurations, so give them a call again if you're not sure. But the process is pretty much the same. Okay, that is in there. Now what we'll need, we'll zip tie this into place here and here. We can remove this. All right, guys, so before we wrap up, I wanted to show you guys how much weight we saved. So I got my scale here on the ground. We'll turn it on and let it zero out. You see 0, 0. We got our pump. And we put our ABS unit on here, and as you can see, we got 3 pounds 8.4 ounces. So just like that, we saved 3.5 pounds basically. What is that? That's a couple of thousand crunches that we no longer have to do at the gym now. But yeah, got rid of this brick, saved more than 3.5 pounds. So yeah, let's wrap it up for the day, shall we? Well, that is a wrap for this episode of my S1000RR track bike build, or right now race bike build because the F4 is a track bike, whatever. That's a wrap for this episode. Special thanks to Alpha Racing and George out there in New York to help me get the correct parts ordered for this bike. We got our ABS delete module installed. We removed the pump. We got our lines installed. Now I still need to fill the system and bleed all the air out of the brake system, but we'll do that, or I'll do that sometime later. There are a ton of videos on Google and the internet, so just Google it or YouTube it, whatever, and you'll find everything you need. I'm not going to do that on camera. I'll do that later. On my next episode, we're going to install my Alpha Racing Race ECU. Hopefully it'll be here in a couple of days. And then I'm going to do 2 track days, and then we're going to take both bikes down to Phoenix MV Augusta, also known as Reparto Veloce. And we're going to put both bikes on the dyno just to see what they do. We're not going to dyno tune them or anything like that. We're just going to put them on there, see which one makes the most horsepower at the rear wheel, most torque at the rear wheel, and just sort of have some fun. You know what I mean? But anyway, until next episode, guys, you guys know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, or smash it if you didn't like it. But I'm Derrick. This is your Superbike Life. Until next time, guys, take care.